There's a spectacular new licensed income program available for doctors. When was the last time you increased your take-home profit by $100 to $500,000 per year? This medical program is simple, and it earns you more than all your current ancillary income programs combined. If you haven't generated such type of new revenue streams, then you better look at the industry's new residual models of business, because the extra revenue is almost effortless. The nice things about these residual models is that they only require that you leverage your current client base so to improve their symptom outcome. Residual models become even more pleasant when you realize that you only have to convert a very, very small percentage of your client base over to a residual model. Now, while the financial benefit to you is considerable, which we'll cover in a minute, the health benefit to your patients is even greater, because these types of chiropractic models increase your adjustment to the subluxation by over 400%. And this equates to resolving pain symptoms for over 95% of your patients. And as you'll learn soon, it's mathematical music to both your business and your pocketbook. While this may sound to some interesting, I assure you it only gets better financially and scientifically, because the patient event, your effort, that generates the extra $100,000 to $500,000 per year only takes 15 seconds per patient to apply. Yes, it's designed to allow you to make money with very little time and effort. Because God knows, some of you may be working too hard, some have very busy practices, some may be gearing for retirement, and who knows, many may be interested in simple programs that operate with low effort and no fancy learning curves. That's the idea, and that's exactly what residual models are about. So what am I really saying? I'm saying that extra 15 seconds per client will add tens of thousands of dollars in profit each month to your practice. Yeah, even in a very small practice. Now that's small effort and, quite honestly, huge returns. At this point, you should be wondering, how exactly does this work? All we're doing is merging a residual model of business with the industry's finest patient symptom resolution program, functional neurology. Let's deviate briefly to functional neurology so you understand how it quickly resolves over 95% of your patient's pain symptoms and what that ultimately means. Then we can come back to finish tying the residual model into the program so you can understand why the money is so quick, why the money is so big, and why it's so easy. Fair enough? So what exactly is functional neurology? It's a model used to activate neurological response via specific stimuli used to influence a targeted response. While in functional neurology, chiropractic manipulation is the current model of stimulus, we have found a more reliable model of stimulus through ECS or endocannabinoid supplementation. This ECS chemical mediation system, which sits atop all neurology, intelligently monitors all systems, all organs, and all cells via this neurological back and forth chemical communication. It does this through a series of on-demand synthesizing, which causes the proper neuron firing event to take place. Neuron firing is simply a transfer of information. I like calling this variety of firing a multi-event process. The neat thing about your neurology is that it's the source of all organ communication, and it's able to effectively resolve pain and other symptoms through a variety of means. One form of communication, which we call Q response, engages CB1 and CB2 receptors for immediate type signaling for events like electrical pain cues. If you put your hand on a hot plate, you respond to it because the ECS has CB1 and CB2 receptors that have procured resources for the purpose of firing in that electrical messaging event. A second type of neurological communication is chemical messaging. That's when your neurology responds to events caused by monitoring and repair, and it requires neurological messaging different than cue response. Your neurology now requires resources that can be uniquely manufactured by the ECS and resolve unique events similar to mediators like hormones and steroids. A key here is that your neurology, your ECS, has the resources in order to fire the communication events. A third stage of neurological firing communication is your retrograde signaling. This is the back and forth stage of chemical messages. It allows the brain to see the advancements of a repair or all functions of the body. The ECS essentially tells the brain through retrograde processes how well its previous instructions are, or how well the body, an organ, or a cellular system is working. So there's a continual retrograde back and forth communication at all time between the brain, cells, and organs. The important aspect, once again, is to remember in all this is that the ECS does not have storage vesicles to warehouse resources needed to manufacture the chemical communication events, the firing event. This is key. Hence, the resources must be available in your bloodstream in real time to properly manufacture the communication event. Otherwise, your ECS can't synthesize hormones, steroids, and the 50 plus other chemical mediators. And you as a doctor know the implications of a deficiency of a single mediator. You then need the resources to create the communication firing event. Otherwise, symptoms like pain, energy, stress, anxiety, depression, let's go on, thyroid problems, adrenals, immunity, obesity, and dozens of others are brought forth as symptoms of deficient ECS resources. I like this slide because it kind of ties everything up. Let me offer an example. If a patient's symptoms are heart palpitations, look at the image. The heart will send messages up to the hypothalamus via the central nervous system. The hypothalamus, the brain's computer, will in turn read those chemical signals and send chemical messaging mediators back down to the heart to help regulate the heart. This entire back and forth messaging process is an ECS event. Now, this is true for all body function, whether it's brain to heart, brain to reparative stem cells, brain to organ damage, brain to pain, brain to stress, brain to immunity, brain to everything system. Your ECS manufactures those chemical messengers for the purpose of completing the back and forth communication, brain organ monitoring, and reparative action. This is essential in mitigating pain. And the reason so many people spend their lives visiting doctors, ingesting countless pharmaceuticals, and still not achieving resolution is because their ECS system is not receiving the proper resources. Matter of fact, 60% of the chiropractors' patients are those venturing outside of the MD market as a last resort in finding resolution with chiropractors. Let's give it to them. Let's take their pain away. Like most of y'all, I realize that the brain is an incredible organ, and it clearly remains resolute in maintaining homeostasis. It can handle vast amounts of what I would call abuse, but one thing is for sure. When starved of its resources, it cannot survive for very long. Functional or chiropractic neurology is essential to the medical industry as a whole. For those not aware, the largest research organization in the world specializing in mental health and mental illness, the National Institute of Medicine and Health, the National Academy of Science Institute of Medicine, Johns Hopkins University, Pfizer, and countless qualified organizations and individuals are identifying the ECS and functional neurology among the most important developments in brain chemistry of our time. This particular slide may be the most important piece of information on this PowerPoint. While you may not be aware, With ECS Functional Neurology, you're able to resolve persistent 20-year patient symptoms. You're able to deal with some of the most important costs to your patients, which is eliminating the loss of work, the loss of time, the loss of salary, the loss of aggravation, anxiety, and all expenses that resolve or that revolve around the symptom itself. The cost to the patient is much greater than just the symptom itself. So when the chiropractor is able to resolve all these forms of cost and the symptom, something quite unique happens. The chiropractor suddenly becomes the patient's primary source of health care. That's worth repeating. The chiropractor becomes the patient's primary source of health care. Now that's something the chiropractic industry has been battling for decades. It matters not that the patient has been following the MD for those 20 previous years. The EC approach resolves the symptom so efficiently that the patient makes the intellectual and emotional jump and latches their trailer to the DC's model of resolution. I know the prestige, the money, the respect, the referrals all play a role, but the most outstanding piece of fact I want to share is that functional neurology procedure that took place to accomplish all this patient's resolution only took you about 15 seconds of effort to complete per patient. And while I could try to demonstrate how farly superior functional neurology is, the proof, the real proof, is in how quickly it mitigates medical symptoms in you. Let us show you how. Now, one question I get very often is, how effective is functional neurology? Let me just say very, very. If a patient has a neurological system, which they all do, a CB1, CB2 receptor system, which they all do on every cell, then the neurology approach is almost foolproof in resolving its symptom. Why? Because neurology is the biological methodology by which the human body monitors and maintains all cells and organs. Obviously, allowing neurology to properly complete its job is a good thing. And if we reacquaint ourselves with the fact that we have a central and peripheral nervous system and CB1, CB2 receptors, which are the conduits for precursors that allow the essential neurological synthesizing to create the multiple event solution, then we come to the realization that by simply controlling the precursors, we can change the rations of influence on the CNS. So when there's pain, anxiety, stress, depression, we can simply control those symptoms with precursor ingestion. It's literally that simple. All we're really saying is that by ingesting the proper precursors, your neurology targets the resolution of the symptom. I think it's important to quickly circle the wagons, finish with the basic science, and address exactly what this means to you in a measurable financial manner. How good is it? How much money can you make? As we said in one of our first slides, we merged ECS Neurology with residual models of income. But first, where did such models come from? Well, they've been around for over 100 years in all types of businesses. We tend to see them in pharma, oil and gas, and various internal state transactions. So we all know how simple and permanent they are. We didn't invent them. We simply had our doctors and accountants adapt the residual business model to seamlessly fit into a chiropractic practice. So we're a plug-and-play model for doctors designed by doctors. This slide explains what it means. A residual model of income means that when you apply a 15-second functional neurology solution once, that the patient will continue receiving the full neurological benefit every month for life. Hence, a patient will be willing to pay you every month for life for that single initial event. It's a form of compound growth. So for the sake of simple math, if a patient uses functional neurology once in month 1, then repeats in subsequent months, then you bring aboard a second patient in month 2 and a third in month 3, The number of actual financial transactions are 6, not 3. The business model has doubled your income, but you have not doubled your clients. You have multiplied your income by a factor of 2. You have just compounded the financial outcome. As this model moves into 6 months, a year, or more, the compounding effect continues to increase. And the factor moves from 2 a month, compound, to 4, 6, 8, 10 a month. And as it moves forward, it gets even faster, to such degree that even if the vast majority, 95% of your patients, did not participate in improving their symptom resolution, your earnings are still spectacular. There's a lengthy history on such models, so they're easy to measure, and they are the reason why owners of small practices can retire in just a couple of years with multi-six-figure incomes. With the advent of functional neurology, these business models compound even quicker. They simply soar. Let's look at a low-performing model. Let's say something smaller, practice with only 10 patients, and assume that only 30% want better pain resolution. Then let's assume that over 80% of those 30% die off. I know it's silly, but let's look at what such model would do. Under such conservative estimates, the spreadsheet shows that this particular individual generated an extra $96,000 in their first year alone. Their second year, because of compounding, moved into $194,000 in new net revenue. Now remember, this is a second stream of income in addition to your current practice's income, which should also increase because of the vastly improved patient outcome. As if that $300,000+ a year in your first 2 years of new revenue isn't good enough, something amazing happens to the stream of income. Look at column A, line 25. It shows over $233,000 a year in net revenue, with practice retiring and closing its doors at the end of the second year. Do you understand? The doctor retired at the end of the second year. Now the doctor is receiving, during retirement with a closed practice, approximately $233,000 per year, every month, every year, for life. This is clear reason why the most profitable sectors in business use residual models. This one just happens to be fine-tuned to seamlessly integrate within a chiropractor's office. Let me show you something that should help put a smile on the face of those who think that this needs to be expensive. It's not. If you can see on the slide, I don't know how clear it is, column A, line 27. It says a little less than $2,300. Do you know what that is? It's the amount of total money, now and for life, that it will cost you to set up this identical program in its entirety. No more funds needed ever. No support fees, no commission, nada. So let me kind of recap. The $2,300 setup fee in its entirety yielded first year over $96,000 in residuals, yielded second year over $194,000 in net residual profit, and then it yielded, after year 2, once the practice closed, $233,000 plus every year for life. In closing this PowerPoint, ECS and residual business models perfectly match one another, leading to the largest increase of income in chiropractic history. Now, if you want to verify information, simply contact us. We will send you a proprietary spreadsheet that you can share with your accountant. In any event, contact us with any needs. Thank you very much.